In this lesson, we're going to model on the fuselage a little bit more. And to do that, I'm going to go to my right view. And I think the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and extrude the top edge of this of my cockpit. And to do that, I'm going to grab these three vertices at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and use the new extrude. You can figure out what these are by moving your cursor over top of them and then seeing what happens in the feedback line. Use the new extrude icon in the shelf. Now, when you do that, you got to remember what's going to happen is you're going to go out along the surface normal if you do this by default. This here is the local and global manipulator change, or toggle, I should say. And then we click on that, and now it will go along with the world axes. Now, the thing you always have to remember when you are extruding is the fact that actually, I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to I'm going to do it that way. Yeah. Click there, and let me undo back. There we go. You always want to undo back to your last selection when you're extruding if you decide you don't want to do it, because otherwise you can get an extrusion right on top of right on top of one extrusion after another and get a really sharp edge there, which you may not want. I'm going to extrude this, click the toggle, and drag this up to about right there. Now, as you can see, at this stage, I don't have quite enough vertices or quite enough edges down here to complete what I'm trying to do. And that's okay, because then we can go back to our multi-cut tool, hold down the control key and click one there, and one there should do it. That's also going to give me enough edges to create a slot here for my tail. So then I'm going to grab vertices from the side here. This one I can push down, like so, and push this up like so. If I hit 3 to do my smooth preview, I can see that's pretty good. Yeah, it's looking a little bit ragged, but that's okay, because the next thing that I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and hide my template layer, because I'm going to rotate this around, change this perspective and rotate it around, and turn off my X-ray, and I'll see I've got a line of edges or line of faces here that I really do not want. I don't want to keep in there. And I got one along the back that I don't want either, so I'm going to delete that. Other thing that I'm going to do is I'll use my multi-cut tool and hold down my control key and chop another edge right there. And that will let me grab these edges. Let's go to edge, grab an edge here, and grab an edge. Double click to select that between the two and move them over a little bit. And that'll make a nice rounded edge like so. Now, the cockpit, the part of the cockpit that we're going to be dealing with, that's going to be we'll make some changes there in a moment. I'm going to bring back my template, and I'm going to go back to my shading X-ray. The button that looks like, if I can bring it up, is this one right here. That one right there. That does the X-ray, but obviously we don't have enough space for that, so that's fine. You can do it through the shading menu. I'll go to my right view, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up the Curves Surfaces menu, which is new. They've combined the two. And I'm going to use the EP Curve tool, which is this tool right here. I'm going to double click on it to bring up my tool settings. And I'm going to make sure my degree is 1 linear. That's going to allow me to click and set points. And I'm going to zoom in close. And I'm going to begin to click like so. Okay, now to do a curve, actually I'll put one in the center there. I'll put a curve. To do a curve, I'm going to want to have at least one there. And I'm going to go around this dotted line. Now this dotted line indicates an edge that is hidden by this surface, the cowl surface itself. Now what I'm going to create here, I'm going to do something a little bit different. If I just wanted to close this off, I would go here and here. But instead, I want to do something different. I'm actually going to 3D print this. And so I'm going to create something different. I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to create the inside, kind of an inside gap or cavity. and then I'm going to do that right there. All right, then I'm going to hit return. Okay, now what I've got is I've got this weird looking shape, and when I rotate this, I'm going to rotate it around the center line, and when I do that, it is going to create a shape inside of here that is going to be the cowling, and then it's going to be the place for the propeller, but then it's going to give a gap. The particular type of 3D printing I'm going to do requires kind of a flue type situation where it can let any interior spaces and let any rosin out through either the cockpit in this case or this central axis for the propeller. And because I'm going to print these shapes separately. So point being that we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to rotate it like so. If you're not going to 3D print it, it's much, much easier simply to close this off like so. All right, so I'm going to hit W. There's my point. Now, when I'm rotating a curve, very rarely do you hit exactly on the right line. So I'm going to pull down the D key and the C key, and I'm going to middle mouse drag along this curve until I get to the end point. And that's going to be what I'm going to rotate on. Next, I'm going to go to Surfaces, and I'm going to go to Revolve Options. And this is very important. We had 16 edges in our cylinder, so I'm going to have 16 edges in this rotate. I'm going to rotate along the Z-axis. The pivot is going to be the object. The segments are 16. The curve range is complete. The output geometry is going to be polygons, and that's going to bring up a whole different set of options. Tessellation method is going to be general. The type is going to be quads. Now, initial tessellation controls are how it's going to convert to polygons, and the best way to do that is to go to per span number of isoparams for both the U and the V axes, and then set the number of U and V's to 1, and then click apply. Boom. There is our rotate. Now I'm immediately going to go ahead and delete half these faces, like so. Okay. And what we've done is we have now created our, I'll turn off wireframe on shaded so we can see we've got this shape. Actually, I want wireframe on shaded. I want to turn off X-ray so we can see our shape. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go to my channel box and layer editor. I'm going to hide my template. And what I need to do now is I want to join this up with my fuselage, the rest of my fuselage. And I know because I'm using, on the render, I'm using viewport 2, and viewport 2 gives me a black surface on the other side of my normals. So I know that my normals are facing out, which means in this case, I know they're lining up, which is the important point. I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to shift click to select both of these, and I'm going to go to mesh. Try that one more time. Undo. There we go. I hit the wrong command. And I'm going to go to a mesh combine. And now what I'm going to do is I can use a couple of tools to do this. I'm going to use vertex, and I'm going to go to wireframe or go to X-ray, and I can see I've got these two shapes, and I'm going to use, going back to polygons, I'm going to use the target weld tool, and I'm going to double click on it to bring up the tool settings, and I'm going to merge to center. That's going to mean that I'm going to pop these two together if I can line them up. It is the one problem with the target weld is sometimes it just doesn't want to line up the. All right, if it's not going to work for us, then I'm going to grab these two and I'm going to merge. I'm going to go to mesh, edit mesh, and I'm going to go to merge to center. And I'll do that. Grab both of these and press G. Press G. And you can always tell because you're going to get two edges. G. You just want to make sure you only get the edges along the outside. If you make a mistake and get more than that, it can be a problem. Sometimes it's hard to see, so that's going to snap it to the center. All right, so now we've basically created the basic shape of our cowling. I'll turn off X-ray, and we'll see though that when we hit smooth preview, we're losing all of our we're losing all of our definition, all of our sharp edges. So in the next movie, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can preserve these edges.